पॉलिसीज आएगी. सो आरबीआई वाज थिंकिंग है जो इन्फ्लेशन है वो पिक आउट इन February, राइट. बट ऐसा हुआ नहीं ड्यू टू द रशिया यूक्रेन क्राइसिस. क्रूड प्राइस शूट अप हो गया, अभी वेजिटेबल प्राइस हायर है, राइट. लॉजिस्टिक्स कॉस्ट हैव इंक्रीज, द पेट्रोल एंड डीजल प्राइसेस आर इंक्रीजिंग. तो जो February में पीक होना था इन्फ्लेशन वो तो अभी हुआ नहीं, राइट. एंड दैट कैन पीक इन अप्रैल, मे, वी डोंट नो व्हेन, राइट. So it will be important to watch out कि how RBI is approaching the inflation. और क्या अभी क्या higher inflation, maybe RBI will come up with a accommodative stance, because there is a debate that we can be behind the curve if we don't start to hike the rates now, right? So there is a lot of thing that will be very clear in the next month. Not only the RBI stance, but the results भी आने लगेंगे अभी, right? And from the second week, the IT companies will be start to report the result, and other companies will follow the suit, right? So you will get a very good idea of how the management is commenting, margin पे कितना pressure बढ़ेगा inflation की वजह से, raw material cost की वजह से, right? So those all factors will be very important, और that can put a pressure. क्योंकि अभी क्या होगा कि rate hikes होगा, Fed will suck some liquidity, RBI का stance, there are chances कि वो थोड़ा change हो जाए, they might guide some rate hikes. इतना एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं है कि इसी बार वो लोग रेट हाइक कर देंगे. आई डोंट थिंक, दैट्स अ पर्सनल व्यू कि वो लोग इतना एग्रेसिव जाएंगे, बट दे कैन गिव सम गाइडेंस. अभी तक वो यही बोलते थे कि या वी आर एकोमोडेटिव एंड वी विल डू व्हाटएवर इट टेक्स टू सपोर्ट द ग्रोथ. बट क्या इतने हाई इन्फ्लेशन पे, इतने हाई क्रूड प्राइसेस पे, विल दे बी अगेन एबल टू कमेंट द सेम? वी डोंट नो. सो वी नीड टू सी व्हाट दे डू. But to prepare in this uncertain time, the best thing is to follow the Nifty's chart, right? So ये अपने लिए सबसे helpful चीज रहता है that how the Nifty is setting up, right? So a couple of weeks back, we moved to a confirmed uptrend, right? And the good part is since we moved to confirmed uptrend, so last week क्या हो रहा था कि the red line over here is the 50 DMA, right? Just for the information of someone who is new, and the black line over here is the this black line is 200 DMA. तो अभी क्या हो रहा था कि निफ्टी बहुत चॉपी था, वो फॉर ऑलमोस्ट 7-8 सेशन वो 50 डीएमए के अराउंड ऑसिलेट कर रहा था. 200 पे सपोर्ट मिल रहा था, 50 के ऊपर नीचे हो रहा था दिन भर, राइट. सो दैट वाज द बेसिक सिनेरियो. 200-300 पॉइंट का ऊपर नीचे हो रहा था, एंड रेस्ट देयर वाज नो चेंज, राइट, as far as the Nifty's move was concerned. So it was very choppy for the last week. But during this week, right, on Wednesday, Nifty closed above its 50 DMA, this candle, right? So that was the first time after breaching 50 DMA somewhere over here, right? Nifty closed above its 50 DMA. ये fall के बाद पहली बार ऐसा हुआ. So that is obviously a good sign. But a little worry was the volume, because volume was not that great. If you look at these blue candles and the red candles, volume was not that good. March का ending था, that might be a very big reason for a bit lower volume. थोड़ा एक्टिविटी कम रहता है at this point of time. But the good part is that yesterday there came a very good volume. Sorry, yesterday was Wednesday. Yeah, yesterday on Wednesday there is very good volume came, right, and the Nifty also went higher. So that was a good day. And today Nifty, traded in a very narrow range. सुबह एक बार 1750 का 17550 का हाई बनाया था, but it was not able to sustain that high. And नीचे भी ज्यादा नहीं गिरा. The closing was also around 17450. That was decent for the week, right? So now what you need to look for, looking ahead, first thing is कि ये जो 50 DMA है that is trending downward, right? ऐसे नीचे जा रही है. अगर आप रेड लाइन को देखें, we want it to turn a bit higher. अभी नीचे जाना बंद करके थोड़ा सा ऊपर जाना शुरू करना चाहिए. That is a very positive indicator. Always remember, जब भी मार्केट थोड़ा रफ फेज से बाहर आता है, whenever after a correction market is coming on the higher side, it is important that 50 DMA starts to turn higher. So now currently if you very closely look at over here, see 50 DMA is falling lower and 200 DMA is falling higher. We don't want it to cross, right? So A temporary is okay, but generally this crossing on a technical front is considered a bit negative. So from here, first thing we want is to 50 DMA to turn higher. Second thing is a green line, that is the 21-day exponential moving average EMA. You want it to cross the 50 DMA. So this is a second positive indicator according to ONIA, right? That whenever 21 EMA crosses about the 50 DMA. And third thing we always discuss about is the additional follow through day. We follow through day 1.5% or higher gain or higher volume, right? तो अगर एक बार हुआ था तब हमने कंफर्म अप ट्रेंड में डाला था मार्केट को. सो वी वांट अ एडिशनल फॉलो थ्रू डे ओवर हियर. वन मोर थिंग यू नीड टू लुक. अभी लास्ट 3 दिन से निफ्टी थोड़ा स्टेबल था, but there was no good strength as far as the broader indices are concerned. So broader market में selective pockets में strength था, otherwise there was no very good strength in the broader market. And the broader indices, the Nifty small cap and mid cap, used to underperform the benchmark indices, right? That was the story. Even the advanced decline ratio was tilted towards the decline. Even today, right? Though the mid cap and small cap closed relatively higher, but the advanced decline ratio was in favor of decliners, right? So this has been the story of the week, that these decliners were in favor. So you want some breadth in the market to improve and some more quality breakouts, as well as the key stocks reclaiming the moving averages. See, what do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, SBI. And yeah, none of the stock and index level discuss over here is a investment advice to buy or sell. Please do not turn the videos, that might disturb the entire audience. Okay. So I was discussing that you want the stocks to reclaim the key moving averages, right? And yeah, I was giving a disclaimer that none of the stock or the index we are recommending to buy or sell, right? This is just for a discussion and the educational purpose. जैसे कि अभी SBI का चार्ट अगर आप देखो तो it is just trading below its 50 DMA, right? बेस बना रहा है 50 DMA के नीचे ट्रेड कर रहा है, थोड़ा रेड लाइन पे देखा, just 1.5%. Okay, and the volume has been lower. If you look at the chart of ICICI Bank, a bit similar story. 200 DMA के around struggle कर रहा है and 50 DMA को थोड़ा नीचे है. So for a sustainable rally, you want the leaders. ये सब market के leading stock है. If these perform well, right? अगर ये लोग 50 DMA के ऊपर आ जाते हैं, these show some strength, then ultimately that will reflect in the index. And once there is a strong index, the sentiment might improve and the broader market can follow the suit, right? So you want some of the quality stocks that are heavyweight in the index to reclaim their key support levels, right? So this has become important. So yeah, as discussed on the higher side, you want some follow through day of 50 DMA turning higher and 21 day EMA crossing to 50 DMA, right? On the flip side, you want 200 DMA to hold. So 200 DMA is around 1770, right? You don't want Nifty to breach that level, because if Nifty breaches 50 and 200 DMA from here, it might be very tough, right? Again, to recover that losses and gain some strength. It is not easy always that the strength can be easily recovered, right? So it might take some time to recover the strength if 17,050 level is broken from this point of time. So this is what you need to look for. Agar 200 DMA breach hota hai, then you should be very careful. The good part is, as we discussed in the start, the distribution day has not been marked since the start of the uptrend. So let's hope it remains as such and we get a sustainable rally in the new financial year. So now we have Mayuresh Joshi, our head of research, is in the group. My colleague Wakar and Rajshekhar has also joined. So now we will be taking up your questions and try to answer as many as possible. So I'm not going into the sector things. So we will discuss the sectors as and when the stock specific queries come at that point of time. Okay, so the floor is open, but please don't keep repeating your questions, because that becomes difficult to scroll and keep looking at the questions. So just post it once. We will try to answer as many as possible. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rashid. Am I audible?
Yes, Rashid, it's clear.
Yeah. I'll take a few queries. There are lots of queries. I'll take Titan, Tata Elxsi. I'll start with Titan. Titan disclaimer, we have added recently to our model portfolio, but we had to exit because it stock hit our stop loss. Currently, it is moving sideways above its 50 DMA and 100 DMA. Uh, but there is no proper momentum after breaking out. That is a major reason we had to take the stock out of model portfolio. But fundamentally, the stock has been a very good stock. It has been reporting very good set of numbers for the last many quarters. Number of funds in the stock have also increased 10% on quarter-on-quarter basis, indicating good demand for the stock among institutional players. The only thing which is detrimental to the stock is its price strength, which is at 59, because of underperformance compared to the overall market. With the same reason, we had to exit. And if you are looking for a fresh entry, it is not advised at the current moment. If you are holding the stock, you can keep 50 DMA as a stop loss, which is a very tight 1.6% from here. Yeah, I'll take Tata Elxsi next. Uh, Tata Elxsi is a very phenomenal company which has given humongous returns to the investors for the last 1 year or more. You can see here the stock is trading. It has broken out from its stage 4B. That itself tells you a story that it has not undercut previous base. That is after breaking out from a base, the stock has been forming new highs, which is a proper growth stock. You can see the ratings here, EPS of 93 indicating strong fundamental character because of its double digit or accelerating sales and EPS numbers for the last many quarters. Price strength and buyer demand are also top notch at 88 and buyer demand of A, indicating a strong technical profile. Everything about the company is good. There is no way about it. The only thing is the stock broke out from its stage 4B. We tend to not add stocks which are breaking out from a late stage basis because stage 3, 4, 5 are considered late stages because whenever there is some sort of selling in the markets due to any news or any technical things, these kind of stocks tend to retrace towards their moving averages. You can see here 50 DMA is at 22% from here. So that kind of risk should be taken. That is why we do not uh, tend to add stocks which are breaking out from their stage 3 or 4 basis.
Yeah, thanks, Rajshekar. But I think in these kind of market, there are a lot of quality stocks. If they are forming the third stage basis, we don't
Correct.
run
Yeah.
away from that. Yeah. But
Yeah.
generally, the fourth we never go for it. But in third also, if there is some excellent setup, agar price volume action is very good. And in Tata Elxsi, there was one question that is it forming the top? So there are no major signs. Yeah, as Rajshekar discussed, fourth stage is always risky. There are high chances कि कभी भी top बन सकता है. But it is around 50% from its 200 DMA. So generally, whenever the stock runs 70% or more from the 200 DMA in a short duration, that is when there are signs of the top formations. So you can look at our learning articles where you will find about the top formations. Okay.
I'll take Gokaldas as well, Rishit. It's a recent query. Stock has been in our watch list. If you are following our emailers, mm, you can see here fundamentally everything about the company is good. EPS, price rating, buyer demand. Uh, Today it broke out, but intraday it staged a downside reversal. That is the reason we have not added to our model portfolio, but it is a prospect addition to our portfolio. That is why we have included it in our buy watch list. If the stock gives a good breakout in the coming sessions, we might add it to our portfolio because of the story the stock has and ratings it is exhibiting in this kind of market.
Rajan,
Yeah,
in Gokaldas, there is one question that is today's action negative? And yes, you can consider today's action negative because volume was very high. And I think after making a high of 438, closing around 402 3, which is almost 8 to 9% of highs, right? So yes, this can be considered negative. So you need to be very careful over here till the time it breaks out on a higher volume again, right? And it reclaims the today's high. Till that time, you need to be very watchful.
Vakaria. Raja, you done? So done, I
Yes,
can take some
yes.
yeah,
queries.
Vakar, yeah, you can take a few queries in the meantime.
So Rishit, can you give me chart for Greenpanel? I saw some queries for Greenpanel.
Can you just recheck your mic? Your voice is a bit breaking.
Am I audible now?
Yes, better.
Better? Okay.
Yeah. So you want Greenply Industries?
Greenpanel, panel I saw. Yeah, so if we, I mean, one of the stocks in flavor the entire last year, if you look at it, I mean, stock gave really good returns over FY22. We can see it. The ratings was very good. And recently the stock broke out of a cup 4 base. But as Rashikar discussed that, I mean, late stage bases such as your 4, 5, and 6 are very risky. Very few stocks are able to sustain on a late stage basis. So, I mean, talking about on technical front, yes, I mean, a late stage base can get tricky. So, and on the fundamental front, if we talk about, I mean, the panel industry has been in flavor because of the under penetration of your MDF market in India. If we look at comparison with China or the global players, plus if you look at the margins the panel players are able to sustain is much higher than that of a ply player. So if you talk about Greenpanel, I mean the margins, your EBITDA margins have been in the range of like 28 to 32%, and even the company in its latest con call has said that they can sustain that margin as well, and they're looking for brownfield expansion at their Andhra Pradesh plant for 1,80,000 PBM, and if to be approved in this March and April. If that gets completed, will get completed if finalized in the next 21 or 24 months. They're seeing that in terms of supply shortage for I mean the panel, and in terms of demand being very robust. So the company is pretty confident in terms of the growth outlook, the margin maintenance, as well as the capacity expansion. But if on a technical perspective, if we look at it, I mean, a late stage base is not safe at the moment. The other would be a solar industry. If you can give me. Yeah, so again, like one of the stocks we discussed in our new initiative of pre-bell. That happens in the morning. So if we talk about solar industry, I mean the ratings like are pretty decent in terms of your buyer demand of B plus. Your RS rating is fair, but you can see that the RS line is trending higher, and the stock is forming a stage to cup base, which is like 4% to pivot. And as discussed, like in the pre-bell as well, on the fundamental front, the company is into industrial explosives. When your industrial explosive goes into your infra and your mining segment. So in talking about, like we all have been talking about the infra push by the government of India, as well as the mining sector having a boost as well. So if we talk about, I mean, the key contributors to the revenue, Coal India is like the highest contributor to the company, around 17% of the top line comes from Coal India, and around 40 to 45% from your overseas revenue. So the company has 6 plants in your African countries, and they want to increase that exposure to 10 going forward. And if you talk about margins, in the last 7 years, the company has able to sustain EBITDA margins of 19 to 21%. And in the latest con call as well, if we look at it, the company is guiding volume growth of 15 to 20% sustainable going forward, along with EBITDA margins of 19 to 20 with a comfortable debt to equity ratio of 0.5. So fundamentally, a very strong company, like forming a stage 2 cup. So let's see how the stock behaves around its pivot, and whether it's able to give a breakout or not. We can discuss one more stock, and let's talk about Minda Industries. I saw Minda Industries. We go Minda Industries. So can you please switch off the camera? Like, people will not. Yeah, thank you. So again, a late stage base, a stage 4 consolidation base, the company is forming, and trading well below its key moving averages. If you look at the off highs as well, the stock is like 26% off highs. I mean, the price strength is clearly not visible in terms of the rating as well, and the line and the RS line as well. And even on the EPS front, the stock is not in a good shape. I mean, if you look at talk about the commentary from the management, I mean, the company did take a price hike of 8 to 9% in terms of the semiconductor shortage as well. The company is seeing that the shortage will go away, but it's likely to persist for another 2 to 3 quarters. Like the company has some new EV order wins, has applied for the PLI scheme as well. So in terms of fundamentally and in terms of a qualitative aspect, the company is doing the right things and right perspective going forward. But the stock is clearly not able to show the price momentum. So let the stock show price momentum and not in a stage 4 base. Let it consolidate or the base count to get reset before like one to think about an entry into the stock.
Thanks, Gokal.
Yeah.
We will take DLF. So there is a question. Yeah, so it had a good year, right? But if you look from the October onwards, there was a bit of correction over here. It breached its key moving averages, but now it is coming a bit back in the momentum, right? Third stage base bana raha hai, and it has reclaimed its key moving averages. See, DLF is a proxy play for the entire real estate industry, right? It is into the residential housing, office space, right? In all the sectors. So the demand has been a bit higher, right? Since after the pandemic, the demand for the housing has been increasing, but there was an issue with the office space and all the things. But I think now the situations are normalizing quite a bit, and that can be very positive for these real estate players. The demand is okay. There is no much issue, and the office spaces are increasing. The malls are opening, so this has a lot of leasing area that DLF has. Also, the company is expanding, so they have a lot of projects now currently in the Chandigarh as well as the other in the northern area, right? And one project it has also started in Chennai as well, right? So it is expanding in the south as well. So that can be positive for the future growth. But in short term, if you look, the macroeconomic environment is a bit not stable, right? And then there is expectation that the global growth might be a bit lower, right? And that could impact this sector. Also, there are chances of interest rate increasing. So that might be a bit negative for a short term. But overall, if just 25-50 bits of interest rate increase might not be that negative in the long term. But yes, for short term, there can be a bit of issue. Otherwise, if you look at the results, the recent results have been really, really good, right? So for the first 9 months, if you look, there was around 70 to 75% sales jump in the pre-sales booking, right? Which is really good. Some cost pressure might be there, because the commodity prices, the steel, cement, due to the logistic as well as the overall commodity prices increase globally, उसकी वजह से थोड़ा raw material पे increase होने से pressure आ सकता है, but that might be passed on to the customers, so there won't be much issue in the longer term. So it's a good story. Fundamentals थोड़ा weak थे, but they are improving, right? Technically third stage बना रहा है, and you need to wait for a good breakout, right? At least when the result comes this quarter, you need to be aware about the new projects, how their sales has been, and how the margin has been impacted, and their comments, the management comment on the raw material cost and the ongoing projects, right? So you need to be observe those comments and then take a decision over here. Otherwise, the volume on the upside has been good over the last few days. Looks like a major correction is over, but then also need to see how the quarterly results come up and how the stock reacts. Okay, so next, there was one question on TCS, that after buyback, what to do in TCS, right? Yeah, so the buyback was a bit lean, right? I think for an average retail investor, around 10 shares. If you have full 45 shares, some 10 shares were taken, right? So that is very less, but the price was somewhere around 3,800 plus or minus 50, right? While the retailers were purchasing for the buyback, so there is no major loss over here for most of the retailers in the buyback, but no notable gains also. Currently, see, the stock is consolidating since a long time. Base 2 to B, then we come to 2C, 2D, E, and 2F, right? So on weekly, it will be very clear. Yeah, so it is not after just, इतना निकाल दे तो यहाँ पे long term consolidation में जाता है. So this is a weekly chart. So again, now on the weekly chart, it is going on a long term consolidation. So you need a very clear breakout. And I think the results will be in the first 15 days of the next month, right? So let's look at the result, right? How they are coming, what is the impact on the IT sector, right? Because there have been a lot of sanctions here and there due to this Russian-Ukraine crisis. So how that might impact the spendings on the technology from the US firm, right? So TCS has a lot of clients from the other firms which are having a direct relation with the commodity, right? So their cost might be increasing. So how they will, come up with the new technology project, engaging in the new technology, that might be need to observe. Naya orders kitna mil raha hai, that is what we need to see, and which sectors are doing well. So here also, let's see in the Q3, Q4 result, how it shapes up and what is management commenting on the current situation. Is the margin increasing or not? And how can be the business going ahead, right? Technically, 50 DMA it is already reclaimed. So if someone is holding, wait for the 50 DMA to, if 50 DMA breaches, it is not good for the stock. On the flip side, if it gains some 5-7% more from here and breakout, so not only the breakout, but we want some ratings to improve. So price trend is very poor. So this is not good. The buyer demand is very poor. D plus is like not just a poor one. So you want some high volume bars on the blue days whenever the stock is going higher, and let the setup improves not only for the TCS, for the other IT firms as well, right? So see, there is no major direct relation with the Russia, right? I don't think more than 1-2% of the revenue might be coming from Russia, and India is not putting sanctions, right? But our IT companies, the IT service companies have a global presence, so that might impact in some way or the other due to the sanctions by the other countries on the Russia. So let's see how it phase out. But currently, you should wait for the technical strength to improve and the results.
Rushit, Mayuresh, can I just add a couple of pointers?
Sure.
Can you hear me, first of all, guys? You can just...
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Yes, Mayuresh.
Yeah, thanks. All right, thanks. No, so just to add to a couple of pointers that Rushit was saying, 2 pointers in favor, 3 pointers probably going a little bit in terms of an overhang for the sector as a whole. So the first pointer obviously is Accenture's guidance. So we are very, very similar in terms of operations to what Accenture does, right? We are predominantly outsourcers who outsource for companies, and the entire space itself, automation, cloud computing, AI, artificial intelligence, that space itself is growing leaps and bounds. So the expectation of the entire industry pie itself expected to go up as per the NASSCOM report from 196 billion odd dollars to around 230 billion odd dollars next year, and even more after that. So the market size is growing at a reasonable clip, and outsourcers definitely are going to benefit. So that's one point that definitely becomes a huge advantage, and that is what Accenture probably did in terms of upping its guidance for the fiscal or for the current year as well. The second factor which goes into the favor of IT companies is that even if we are looking at a post-pandemic world with vaccinations improving globally, the vast realization across companies is digitalization. So I think the kind of orders that are coming through every passing quarter are quite substantial. So traditionally, हमेशा ये माना जाता था कि Q3 with Christmas holidays, furlough becomes a little bit of an issue for IT companies because billing days itself are lower. And as Rushit was pointing out, Q4 becomes a quarter where a lot of companies actually go through their annual budgeting exercise, right? Our financial year has just ended. It starts on 1st April. For a lot of companies in the US and the West, the first quarter will already be over today, right? So a lot of decision making when it comes to spending, discretionary spending, how about to budget for IT spends across industries, whether it's retail, BFSI, manufacturing, happens in this quarter. So I think these are two factors which probably are in favor. Now, three factors, as I said, which probably act as an overhang. One, in terms of what Rushit rightfully mentioned, with the crisis and the expectation of rate hikes and some clawbacks in terms of liquidity, some companies specifically in the mid-cap space. So I think the mid-tier companies in the US, not the large ones who offer multi-million-dollar orders, might claw back on their budgets, and therefore there can be a risk in terms of the order wins not coming at that quantum that one really expects. The second element obviously is the outside risk that as the pandemic is over and as travel and office spaces start getting occupied again, the cost optimization that they had achieved, both in terms of operating and SGA expenses, they might start going back up again in terms of on-site expenses, travel, in terms of office spaces getting renegotiated as more stuff starts coming in. And therefore, the pressure on EBIT margins, if any, can be laid out to a large extent. And third, and not the least, is whether this market size actually compounds at the pace that we are probably looking at, or does it consolidate in this year and then people say let's take it easy. I don't want to spend in a recessionary year, and therefore let's take a call in the next few quarters or in the next year on the expansion plans because we've got different priorities set right now. So I think the sector is going through its grind, and therefore waiting for results is the best way to talk about it. TCS individually had a very low acceptance ratio, and therefore the kind of built up that we saw with the high expectation, it was only 25-30 odd%, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people are expecting it to be around 70-75 odd, and that was a little bit disappointing. Valuations, again, I think we don't really discuss that. Yes, valuations have always been higher for TCS. But looking at the stack again, I think between large cap and mid caps are doing phenomenally well. Even after giving a 2x rate return, looks at Tata Elxsi, right? The same Tata Group stock. It's just not stopping. If I'm not mistaken, Rushit, what is it? Stage 4, stage 5? ऐसे ही कुछ है ना Tata Elxsi का?
Stage 4 wave. Stage 4.
So I think it's a one-way rally of sorts. But I think being very, very selective is something that I would put forth. Yeah. So I think let's go to the next one. I think Rishabh is asking for Gujarat Alkali for a long time. Someone wants to take Gujarat Alkali. Let's do that. And if you're doing Gujarat-based companies, let's take Gujarat Gas as well.
Yes, I'll take Gujarat Alkali.
Sure, Rachik. You're audible.
Okay. Yeah. Gujarat Alkali, we have recently added to our model portfolio. That is 2 days back after a breakout from its base. And we have sent out a detailed note about its fundamentals and technicals, which is uploaded in our website. You can go through it. The reason for addition is that you can see it's a typically a strong breakout happened on 28th in the stock. The fundamentals are also fair enough at 61, but the technicals are outperforming the majority of the index, majority of the stocks in the universe. You can see a buyer demand of A plus indicating a good demand for the stock. After addition, stock has given 2 red days, but today it has given a good green day. It closed in the top range of the price range, which is a good indication. You can continue to take a position. The stock is trading slightly above its buy zone, uh, and but the risk reward is slightly skewed here. You can see it is trading above its key moving averages. Even its 21 DMA is at 20% from the current trading price. So according to our rule, we keep around 7 to 8% as stop loss. So we always keep that in mind as well when taking position in these kind of extended stocks. And if you are holding, I can continue to hold. We might expect some positive momentum in the coming sessions, given the strong price volume action in the recent days.
There is a
yeah.
question on GNFC that I can take in between. So that is yeah. So if you look at the chart of GNFC, right, from the stage 5 breakout, it is going higher and higher, 63% in 36 days, right? So I think this is mostly due to the price increase in TDI, right? That is toluene discoanite. That is one of the chemical, right? So due to this Russia-Ukraine crisis, yes, the prices of TDI is going higher, and the GNFC is a direct beneficiary of that, and that's the reason this has been in momentum since the war started, right? The other thing is the fundamentals that has quite improved over the last few quarters. Though the EPS strength you might see is a bit poor, but look at the earnings as well as the revenue growth in the last few quarters, right? It has been excellent. Plus, if you look at the management commentary, that has been very positive, right? They are planning a capex of around 3 to 4,000 crore, which will be over the next 3 years, right? And the margins have also increased very well, and that might increase even more in this quarter, right? Due to this higher TDI prices, right? So that's the reason the stock has been doing quite well. And yeah, the stock, it's almost some 80 92% capacity utilization at one of the plant in Gujarat, and I think for the other plant, which is a flagship plant in Bharuch in Gujarat, I think the capacity utilization is already 100%, right? So the stock has been doing quite well due to these price hike reasons. So technically, buyer demand and RS is very good, but the fresh entry is not suggested at this point of time from O'Neill methodology, because it's already 63% from its stage 5 base, right? So that's too much, right? This is one of the exceptional case that gets recorded in the book, right? With the Tata Elxsi, the GNFC, and these guys. So one should wait over here to form a new, to at least pull back to 50 DMA. But if you are holding the stock, then you can wait for the stock to breach the key technical level. So even 21 DMA is 17% from here, so it is quite extended, right? So one need to be very careful. Almost top formation की ओर बढ़ रहा है because 86% from 200 DMA. If you look on weekly chart, okay, yes, there is a lot of increase. So in February starting, it was somewhere around, the low was around 450, right? And in the recent week, it made a high of 854. So almost 80-90% increase in some 8 to 9 weeks. So this is moving towards the top formation. So if you have position, you need to be very careful. Just trail your stop loss. That is the best strategy. But ideally, according to O'Neill, new positions are not suggested over here. So there is one question on Infi. So there was a detailed discussion on IT sector. So Mayuresh gave some very useful insight on it. So yeah, it is forming a stage 4 base and very close to breakout. But again, it's a stage 4 base and the results are very near. So those who are regularly following us and William O'Neill might be knowing that, whenever the result season is very close, let's say 8 to 10 days before the earnings, we try to avoid taking fresh entry from that stocks, right? You need to be very careful. And yeah, so the IT result season is very close. And so for that reason also, you should be very careful in this stock. Otherwise also, it's a stage 4 base and you should be very cautious while trading in the higher base stocks. Otherwise, fundamentally, a lot of things were discussed about the IT sector and it's applicable to this one as well. Okay, so next we'll take SRF. A lot of questions related to SRF. Yeah, so it broke out from a stage 3 base, but if you can see the price volume action as well as the ratings were very good. So this is what we look when the double bottom was getting formed. So when the stock was going lower, just look at the volume. It was almost half of the average daily volume. If you can see the pink candles, right? While when it reversed, right, from after forming the second leg, that is from here. So this was the first leg and this one is the second. So when it reversed after forming the second leg, look at the volume. That has been very strong, right? So it got accumulated on a very good volume. So this was one of the reasons while we were a bit positive when it come to the third stage as we added this stock. Right. Also, fundamentally, it's a very good story. No two ways about that. And if you look at the EPS rating line, it is top notch, 95. The buyer demand has been excellent. And RS line, though the rating is 76, not a poor one, it's a good one, fair, but it is trending higher. So, right, not only the ratings, but how the RS line is trending, that is also important. So, if you just look when the second leg was getting formed, the right side of the base was getting formed, the RS line was trending on the higher side, right? And that's the reason we had it in our portfolio. Plus, look at the number of funds. So this is what interests us a lot. Almost 57% increase in just one quarter. So this is on a quarter-on-quarter basis, right? So this is very good. And if you look at the share held by fund, it is almost up 377%. So this is something very important that you need to watch out for, that how are the number of funds over there. It means a lot of institutional interest is there in the stock. So yeah, it is trading in its ideal buy range. So 0 to 5% is the ideal buy range after the breakout. The stock is currently 3% from its pivot and it is trading in the ideal buy range. Okay, the next one.
We can take a defense query. We can take HL, Rushit, Wakar, Rajshekar, whoever is taking.
Sure. So HAL, if you can see here, it today gave a breakout on a higher volume from stage 3B, right? So it gave it the breakout from the 3B base. But if you look at the overall setup, right, there has been a broader range. So it has been, very volatile in this range, the defense stock, right? So you need to be looking at these things. If you look at the number of fund holding, that has been good. The results have been good. The other important thing is like the Make in India shift, right? The Make in India shift and a lot of new projects coming towards the HAL, right? Recently also it got some order from the defense for the light combat helicopters, right? So the order book has been increasing day by day, and the shift towards the Make in India, right? Especially there is a lot of dependency on the Russia and the other part of the world for the defense equipment imports, right? So India is pushing hard to be a bit self-resilient, making more and more in India. And so that theme, if you look on a broader perspective, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, that can be very positive. That can work well for HAL. Technically, if you look, today it gave a breakout from stage 3B base. Yes, but it is, there is a supply zone at around this point, and that can make it a bit tough to move over there. And if you can look at the RS line also, it is not giving a good direction. So there was some good move in the RS line, and again it fell sharply, right? Well, from last 2 to 3 days, it is again moving higher. Few other things which is not good over here is that it is closing off highs, right? यहाँ पे continuously ये off highs बंद हो रहा था. But today's breakout was very good and it is trading in the on the ideal buy zone.
If you want, I'll take in a few queries.
Sure.
Am I audible, Rushad?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Give me KEI chart, please. I have a query for KEI. Okay. So stock recently broke out, like again from a stage 4 base, a late stage base. We can see overall, if you look at the ratings and plus the fund holding has been increasing like on quarter, if we can see. If the EPS and the sales strength also we look at it, that's really good. The RSI is trending higher. But if you look at the volumes, on certain down days as well, if you see, the volumes are pretty high. And volume front, you can see high volatility. And on the fundamental front, if we talk about the in terms of the revenue, the company had a very robust revenue growth for Q3 FY22, but on account of commodity cost pressures, it had a huge hit on margin. In terms of doing the right things going forward, the company is like in place to take its retail sales ahead. Like it's nearly targeting retail sales of 50% going forward, with the retail sales growing at like around 30 to 35%, and they want to bring down their turnkey project revenues. So if we talk about margins, the company is hoping around like 11% margin going forward. But again, if you look at your commodity cost pressures and plus your non-ferrous prices going higher, margins can be a bit of issue for the company. The other we can discuss is Hfcl. Saw a few queries for Hfcl as well. So like after, like if we look at the entire FY22 space for the company, like after that strong rally post the breakout, and if you can see in March or April, if we talk about it, touched a high of 96, and post that it's been just like trending in a very flattish range for the entire year. I mean, if you talk about the fund holding and everything that's increasing, we can really see that. But if you in terms of momentum, if we talk about the RS line has been like in that the most flattest trend we can see, and even off highs, we can see the stock is like 22.35% off high. On a fundamental story, the stock is like into optical fiber and optical fiber cables, which has huge demand in terms of your telecom, your networking, and all the stuff. The company is into your retail as well as your turnkey projects. So again, even this company would want to is targeting either retail sales to go to 60% in the next 2 to 3 years, and around 45% for FY22. And with a strong revenue growth outlook of 15 to 20% for this year itself. But if we translate that into the stock price, we cannot see that kind of momentum with the stock at the moment. And plus the stock is in the ASM surveillance list as well. Rishit, you can go ahead.
Sure. So there is a query on national aluminium. Yeah, so this also has been in momentum like GNFC due to the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So the commodity prices increased, especially the price of aluminium has increased in the global market, and that's the reason the stock is in the momentum. So being a Navratna company and one of the lowest no price producer in the world, it takes the lowest amount to produce the aluminium. This has been in a very good momentum. So it broke out from a stage 4 base, and that's a bit of issue over here. So after that, it made a high of around 132 after breaking out from a 115.25 pivot. So, but yeah, currently it is in the buy zone on the higher range, but it is very choppy. If you can see, the fourth stage breakout is not that great. Even the prices of aluminum have increased so much in the global market. And if you look at the volume on the lower side, also the volume was only a bit high. If you can see over here, these patches of volume were a little on the higher side, which is not something very constructive setup, right? And it is very close to 50 DMA. So those who are holding the stock, it becomes very easy to trade over here, because you can keep 50 DMA as a stop loss, because it has found a very good support near 50 DMA. If you can follow my annotation, since here it has been finding a very good support at 50 DMA, right, near the 50 DMA. So अगर ये level breach होता है, then there can be a further fall. But while breaching also, the volume is important. If you see the volume is higher when the stock breach the 50 DMA, then that is very negative. Ideally, today it rebound from the 50 DMA, if you can see, right? So yesterday's closing was just below 50 DMA, but look at the volume. It was very low, right? So you need to be very careful around 50 DMA, but there is a clear support at 50 DMA. On the flip side, as it's a higher stage base, so uh, we try to avoid it according to only methodology. And also, see, this was a bit of news driven. अगर Russia Ukraine का थोड़ा settle हो जाता है, there is a clear ceasefire. There are some signs, but it is not very clear. अगर हो जाता है, then the commodity prices might cool off, right? And even the prices of aluminium. Russia is a big supplier of aluminium. So अगर चीजें ठीक हो जाती है, sanctions थोड़े कम हो जाते हैं, right? Again the trade starts, then there might be a small pullback for this stock. Otherwise, long term it is good. Fundamentally story सही है. It's a dividend giving stock. ठीक है, हर साल 250-300 करोड़ का डिविडेंड देता है गवर्नमेंट को. And recently there was some news regarding Nalco. There were questions in Rajya Sabha around its disinvestment. But there was a clarification from the government that since inception, this has been a profit-giving company, and there won't be any disinvestment in Nalco. Right. So this was a clarification from government in the parliament. Okay, next. Hindalco, yeah, same story. Due to the higher commodity prices, the stock was in a momentum, right? But I think there was some investor presentation, the annual day for the stock, and that was not taken very positively by a few of the analysts. So,
नहीं Rushit, क्या हुआ ना? There was a huge capex that these guys planned. So there was huge capex that Hindalco has planned. Now what happens is, typically in a commodity cycle, when such a huge capex is planned, the question becomes in terms of more supply coming in the next few quarters. And if you are doing a capex, your competitors do that as well, which means more and more supply coming in, and that keeps on putting on pressure in terms of prospective future prices, whether it's aluminium or alumina both. Now the integration part becomes extremely important. So what Rushit was saying for Nalco as well, right? The alumina operations for Nalco become a key defining moment. They are internally consumed and they're for outside sale as well. What happens in terms of Australian alumina not coming through, lockdown in China, supplies and inventories getting dwindled, and alumina and Russia holding 6% market share in aluminium itself, right? So global inventories are already low, supply is getting constrained, demand expected to remain strong. But on the flip side, huge capex means that more competition can also do capex to take or regain their market share in the overall aluminum alumina market as well. And therefore the issue of supply demand dynamics in the next few quarters playing against it and pricing coming down, basically LME realization, that might play truant, and that is what the street probably is a little bit fearful of. So that's the whole reason why you're seeing these two huge red candles for Hindalco. I think though that particular announcement on their con call was something that was perceived in the manner in which I am probably interpreting that. Yeah, Rushit, you can take it forward. Sorry.
Yes, I agree. Around 8 billion of capex was planned by the Hindalco. That has added a bit pressure over there. Okay, so next list, Rajshekhar, you are taking it, right? Okay, so yeah, there is a question on ONGC, so let me take that. So yes, due to higher crude oil prices, right, the stock was moving higher. So that in January, it break out from a stage to double bottom base, and it was consolidating for almost more than a month after that breakout. But since they broke out of the geopolitical tension, the crude oil prices was increasing, right? And I think this was the day when there was a crude reach around 130-40 per barrel, right? And you can see the sharp spike in the ONGC's chart, right? But it again cooled back off and it has breached its 50 DMA. So technically, after this gap down yesterday, which was around 5%, this is not looking good because high volume पे 50 DMA breach कर दिया था. So technically, one should avoid this till the time it reclaims it 50 and 21 DMA in a higher volume. So now we are already at 5:30. So we will quickly take 2-3 stock and just a brief technical discussion. Okay, let me take some power stocks. Questions over there. Tata Power, Adani Power. Okay, if you look at Tata Power, the setup is quite good. It is consolidating in a very narrow range. Volume भी low है. अगर देखिए down days पे तो बिल्कुल ही low volume है. If you can see the annotations, so the volume has been very low and it is consolidating in a very tight zone. So the setup is constructive. No two ways about that. It is forming a third stage base, so need to be very careful how it breaks out from the pivot or accumulation कितना होता है breakout से पहले. Otherwise, the story is playing quite well. The renewables, the EVs, right? Now, Adani Power. हाँ, coal के prices भी बढ़े हैं, तो due to that reason also the Tata Power has some reserves of coal in, and so they can get a higher realization over there. So if you look at the Adani Power, right, the earnings has been quite poor for the stock, right? The funds have dumped this around 8% QOQ decline in the fund holdings, right? It has a negative EPS, but it broke out technically from the stage 1 base and it has been giving them huge return since then, right? So today also it went almost 9% higher on a higher volume. Okay, so next IRCTC. We'll take 2-3 more in a quick way and then close the session. So yes, it has been consolidating in a very tight zone. So there was a lot of moment in last year. So this was the stock in the news last year after, and it went to a high of 1279. जो split भी हुआ था. So originally 6,000 के around I think price गया था, if I'm not wrong. उसके बाद it has been going down, it has breached its 50 DMA but got support somewhere near 200 DMA, and since then again you can see the volume activity very low volume activity पे it is consolidating. So once it reclaims 50 DMA it makes a new base, and let's see how the results come up. The reopening theme is working quite well, so that traveling side, that's not an issue, but I think still the pantries have not been opened at a lot of trains, right? And this has been an issue for the IRCTC. So a lot of new trains also planned. So let's see how it turns out, how this quarter's result come up, and what the management is commenting. So let's take the last one, Bajaj Finance. The stock has recovered from its low of around 5,900 in some quick sessions, right? It has reclaimed its key moving averages. Volume भी पिछले एक दो दिन में decent था, but today there was a reversal. So not a good sign after making a high of somewhere around 7,445. It closed around 7,258, right? So there was a reversal over here. Fundamentally, it's a good stock. The earnings have been consistently growing, right? Since last 2 quarters, it has been good. Okay, so one last question.
So Rushit, Sneh has a question, Sneh Sharma.
Okay.
Sneh, if you can put in the question, because I can't see that right now, because there are too many queries and it's nothing like that. I have time and again mentioned that we don't skip any questions. We try to take how many questions that are possible. We are not arbitrary in picking up questions. So maybe if it scrolls up or down onto the chat, maybe the team misses that. Maybe I miss that as well. Yeah. So that is the whole point. There is no issue in terms of missing anything or being very arbitrary. I've always maintained that. So please do not have any reservations, folks, that we arbitrarily pick up questions. It is quite possible that scrolling up and down, we might be missing it. We are quite open and we are quite analytical, whether we answer queries, whether those stocks have moved in our favor or not, or whether stop losses have got hit. Because we are all in that learning curve and we do not have any qualms or qualms about it, because we believe that learning is for everyone. So Sneh's question on Bajaj Finance, if you can do that as well.
Sure. The stock is forming a stage 3 consolidation base, right? So last quarter was a bit decent one for him. The AUM grew around 25 to 27%, right? And the NIMs also increased a bit. However, I think there was some problem with the asset quality, if I'm not wrong. No, sorry, the asset quality also improved. So on the result front, there was no issue. The AUM growth, the NIM growth, as well as the asset front, all the three increased, right? And there was a very good rally, if you can see from April 2021. So in this year, the stock went up a huge way. So it made a high of 19,325. But since then, it is consolidating, right? And making a stage 3 base. So यहाँ से अगर breakout होता है from the stage 3 base, I don't think before result it might show this momentum. But once the result starts coming out, and if you see that the growth is quite good on the front of AUMs and the NIM is increasing, right? And so there, that can be the reason that the stock can break out from this point of time. Okay. So thank you guys for joining us for the session of Stock Durbar. I hope most of your queries might be answered, but as Mayuresh says, sometimes we miss, and sometimes it happens. Like we have discussed one sector in a detail. Let's say, for example, today Mayuresh discussed, and I also discussed about the IT sectors. Then sometimes we try to, skip those IT questions because we want to go to the other questions as well. So that might be the reason that sometimes your queries might go unanswered. But otherwise, we don't look at the names. We just guys look at the queries and try to answer as many as possible. So thanks for joining. So we will meet again in the Stock Durbar session, right? Thank you.
So thanks, Rushit. Thanks, Fakar. Thanks, Rajshekar. So guys, in case any of the queries are missed, right, please mail in. Mail in to the team, mail in onto the support ID. Pretty sure we'll get back ASAP on this. So thank you guys for attending. Have a great day and see you in the next financial year. Bye.